Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Citizen Television. A panel of young people taking into account developments over the week, starting off with that report by the Auditor General, now looking at the cash standoff over the counties yesterday. The meeting convened by the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, the Kenya School of Government, and among the stakeholders who attended were the Council of Governors, the Commission on Revenue Allocation, representatives from the National Treasury, and the Commission on Revenue Allocation, where a deadlock ensued for 8 hours and a resolution was never found to that effect. The Deputy President later, during a press conference, announcing that a meeting between the governors and President William Ruto is scheduled for early February next month to unlock the deadlock over the county cash. But the Commission on Revenue Allocation equally raised the red flag over the issue of pending bills in the country and the counties accounting for the same. Let's now get the account of my panel in studio. Hezena Lematian is nominated Senator. Alex Njiri and Maliba Arnold are both public policy analysts, and Maina Karobia is a member of Parliament, the East African Legislative Assembly, which is headquartered in Arusha in Tanzania. I come to you first, Senator. This is one that I'm sure dear to you and many senators at the Senate, because you basically are the guardrail of the devolved system of governance. What do you make of the standoff yesterday? Is it a continuity of what we have seen before, the governors asking for more? And how do we address the pending bills issue, which is a thorny issue, and a red flag yesterday issued by the Controller of Budget and the Auditor General on counties that have ineligible pending bills? Means there are no supportive documentations or paperwork for that payment to be done. I mean, how do we curb the malfeasance as we talk about devolution?
You see, more importantly, that's the very reason why we need the Senate Oversight Fund, so that to make smooth our activities on oversight. Because for me personally, I don't see the reason why, and I don't think it's the position of Senate yet also, that governors have an increased, demand any sort of increase. Because so far we've seen a lot of counties involved in misappropriation of funds. And I'm speaking as a former employee who's immediately coming from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Okay. So there is a lot of misappropriation of what counties are already getting, and a lot of counties are already getting very sufficient funds for undertaking whatever sort of development they want. But you're seeing the amount that the Treasury is disbursing to counties does not reflect the situation on the ground, and that is what I will always advocate for. Something like CDF, for instance, Samburu County has 3 constituencies, and each constituency is getting about 137 million. But
that is in the CDF kitty?
Yes. So you can imagine how much they are getting in the county revenue allocation for the governors. We have seen counties like mine previously being involved with the embezzlement of funds. And suddenly you're shocked that 2.5 billion has been lost from the county, a county like Samburu, which is struggling and in the fangs of poverty. So for me personally, I don't see why the governors should be demanding more, and they should actually, Treasury should actually hold them to account and explain why there is no proper paperwork for the pending bills, because I believe that is what the Kenyan citizens deserve. Okay,
so you underscore the need for effective utilization, and this largely is around leadership.
Yes.
And do you foresee that as a member of the Senate, what then going forward would be your action plan, for instance? Because this is a matter that concerns many Kenyans, and they have you, the senators at the Senate, to look into the counties.
You see, being the oversight house of the counties, and particularly the governors, they normally say that the senators are enemies of governors, and you can see with the arrival of some bodies that work with the Senate together with the Council of Governors, you don't even see why the governors are coming out and strengthening the Council of Governors. For what purpose? What are they exactly protecting as as a group, because individually they are supposed to focus on each counties. These are like small presidents of counties. They are solely, they are largely responsible for wherever their county ranks in terms of development. And when we see them running to Council of Governors and trying to strengthen it more than other bodies that work with the Senate, you understand then there is something they fear. They know that they are making mistakes, and I'm sure they will be the first even to maybe sponsor things that will fight the oversight fund. Unfortunately, we are waiting to go to Mombasa for the induction so that we do exactly what the MPs did. Okay.
Well noted. Alex, I'll come to you, Honorable Maina Karobia. Alex, I mean, are we living the very purpose of devolution, even after devolving power and resources from the center?
No. Are we? Are we there? Perhaps not. Are we heading there? Absolutely. I think devolution...
But in terms of the path, I mean, the pathway, in terms of where we are heading, as you mentioned, seems to be a thorny path, long winding route, too tedious, steep and slippery.
Yeah, but not very removed, Ayub, from every other political process in this country. I think it's consistent with every other political process that the country has undertaken. Coming to the issue of the revenue formula, I knew 2 years ago that we were going to have that problem this year. Because in 2020, it took the intervention of former President Uhuru Kenyatta to pump in an extra 50 billion to resolve an impulse that had threatened to totally stop county governments. If you remember then, they were being given, I think, 315 billion or 317 billion. And they wanted 380 billion, the current 370 billion, sorry. And if you remember, it was a tug of war between governors from very populated, densely populated counties. So mainly counties in Mount Kenya, and some in Rift Valley as well, Western a few as well, versus governors of counties that were sparsely populated but had vast tracts of land. And you remember getting to the formula where each county, and I want to quote the current president because he said, we need to have a situation where it's a win-win, yeah? So that every county either retains their allocation or at the very least retains their allocation, but ideally, gets an additional amount of money. And that was not possible with the 317 billion because some counties were actually losing money based on that, a majority of them in Northeastern. So the president, after a lot of, if you remember, there was a proposal, there was a proposal by Sakaja, there was a proposal by Kangata, who by then was a leader on the floor. And
there was
eventually,
a proposal by the former Kakamega County Senator.
Correct. So eventually, the president had to sit down and look for some 55 billion from somewhere that arrived at the 370 billion that is being proposed. So on the face of it, the 370 billion that's being proposed is actually a decent figure. It's a reasonable amount because it proposes the 315 billion plus and the extra 50 billion. It then enshrines that, it protects that amount. But of course, the governors have figured out, well, if we can squeeze 50 billion
the last time
2 years ago, we can squeeze in another 50 billion because that tells you that's what they are looking for. Their allocation is 380, sorry. They want 425, so a 45 billion markup. But that's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable. We are looking at, remember, this administration is big on fiscal discipline. It's big on trying to reduce public spending. It's big on trying to reduce the budget deficit. And one of the drivers of the last budget deficit was that 55 billion that was initially not in the budget, but which the president had to look for from somewhere. Eventually, he was not able to get that money because KRA did not meet the targets. So that whole, that we talk about, the budgetary overshot that we talk about, that 55 billion had a significant contribution to that whole that we're talking about. So as to whether the current administration is able to bend down to the demands of the governors and getting the extra money is a question, but it's also a question of the formula that's going to be applied that ensures that all the counties are at the very minimum able to retain their allocation.
Honorable Maina, because one thing that also stood out in the presentations by the Auditor General were the pending bills, eligible and ineligible. Of course, recommending that a priority should be given to the eligible pending bills for those who have supplied the counties. But I wonder, because going through the report by the Controller of Budget, 1.7 billion was paid, despite that being labeled as ineligible pending bill, amounting to 1.6% of the total ineligible pending bills by the counties. Then does it not raise questions, even as the governors want more money to be transferred to the counties, why ineligible pending bills were paid?
You see, my brother Ayub, it goes back to what I said about the morals of our leadership. We have the right rules, we have the structures, but people who we have put in office just choose to abuse their offices through other dubious means. I think the relevant financial and criminal justice systems should come up with three strict mechanisms to ensure that there is prudent utilization of funds that have been allocated. Also, how we pay the bills, the various bills that are incurred by these devolved units, so that there is accountability. And again, there should be follow-ups, paper follow-ups. Like, for instance, if Ayub, I'm paying you for a certain service as a governor you have rendered to my county government, that payment should be something that is quantifiable, due processes being followed, and there should be record in terms of paperwork and in terms of the financial systems that are used to pay these individuals or companies that have rendered services to the counties. Another thing I want to say is that I think the COG, Council of Governors, need to be creative in terms of resource mobilization. They should not just be depending on the treasury to raise resources. I think they need to expand their horizons. They need to look at the modern ways of raising resources.
Okay.
For instance, engaging development partners, utilization of the resources that are in our counties. I've seen there was a discussion on mining. I was privileged to meet the Principal Secretary of Mining, CPA Jamwangi, and I talked in depth to him in regards to why we should be utilizing the endowed resources that we have as a nation. I was giving an example of the World Cup that was hosted in Qatar, and I was giving the example of how the Middle East has been able to turn the desert they have there by utilizing the oil or another resources that they have been endowed with to meet their developmental agenda. And I was telling him that it is time, and I want to say this even on this station, that the county governments and other office bearers need to utilize the resources, the natural resources that we have been given, so that we are not caught in time. Like, for instance, let me give an example. Today, if you mine coal, the international systems will be on your neck.
Because of climate change?
Because of climate change.
Okay.
If you utilize this coal, like 20 years ago, nobody would be on your neck. Sometimes if we don't utilize these resources, the global dynamics in some few years' times will render some of these resources that we hold to be obsolete, and they might not be of help to us. Which
calls for thinking ahead.
Exactly, and that's why I'm saying that the governors and the people who are holding offices need to utilize or need to be creative enough in terms of mobilizing resources for their developmental agenda.
Okay, one more time, Arnold, and it's the president's intervention that the deputy president highlighted, but can it end? What are the probabilities of this addressing the very thorny issues of the line between increment of funds to the counties and accountability and the question of effective utilization of the funding?
I think we missed the point when we talk about these two issues as if they are one and as if they are co-joined. Counties should get what they deserve. The issues of accountability are separate and should be worked on. Even as the Senate actually prepares and speaks loudly about the Oversight Fund, you know, for me, and all of us know that the Office of the Auditor General should, practically, if you're looking at the structure of government, is an appendage of Parliament. Parliament cannot do oversight without an effective Office of the Auditor General. you saw when she spoke the other day, and this has been the song of every other Auditor General we've seen. They are underfunded, they are understaffed, they are working behind. Parliament cannot do oversight. Even as they get that money, whatever they call the oversight fund and whatever they want to work around that, this is the thing, that Parliament cannot function effectively without a functional and effective Office of the Auditor General. So the question should be that, are we really interested in oversight per se, in what it means? Can we resource the Office of the Auditor General sufficiently to be able to take their work effectively? And, even with the little they have, with the few staff that they have, see what they're able to do. They're almost 2 years behind in every audit. That we will discover that Maina Karobi, for example, just giving an example, the sins he committed this year, we will discover them just before elections. And then we will be saying, okay, we are targeting him because he is just about to become the governor of Kiambu, something like that. Yeah. So sometimes when we are able to nab these things, the first role of the EACC is actually not to, as in to stop before it happens. When it comes to corruption, it's actually to detect way ahead. You look at the act before it happens. But they don't do that. We've also underfunded the EACC to a level where that they can only react after. So you've under-resourced the Office of the Auditor General. You are playing around with the EACC, not giving them all the power they need and the resources and everything. And remember, EACC a lot of times then will be left to depend on what the Office of the Auditor General is doing. So largely we've not been serious about that particular end.
All right.
As of what governors actually are asking for, it is their right to ask for that.
Thank you.
Counties, and that is the beauty of democracy and devolution, that when people are able to sit down, disagree, and no one is actually holding a panga for the other one, and then they move it to February, they will talk until they get to agree.
Thank you.
We should not peg this thing that since money is being lost in the counties, we shouldn't give you more money. But I have got functions to run. Sometimes the governor that we are pointing fingers to is actually also a victim of systems that are not working, like the Office of the Auditor General, EACC that is not working very well. A governor could be in Nairobi today, for example.
Okay.
Officers somewhere down there are doing their thing. How then do we peg that on the governor himself? So we should not confuse the two. We shouldn't make them look like we don't give them money because it's being lost. A lot of money has been lost at the national government, for example. The mega corruption scandals are within the executive.
Thank you.
Have we ever said that we deny the executive money because ministries are stealing money? Why then are we forcing that on governors?
On both levels, you cite the question of corruption.
Yes.
So where is we talked about policies and frameworks that are there, the interpretations given by the Supreme Court, and to be specific, which it said in one of the major rulings that Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity is not for cosmetic purposes, and that leaders ought to be prioritizing issues of significance for the people. Isn't this then a case of incapacitation of existing capacity by the office holders?
I think Chapter 6 should be expunged from the Constitution. I've said this before, and I'll repeat. Because the framers of the Constitution did not have the spine to give it a proper foundation for its implementation. We left that to parliamentarians, to Parliament to actually play out.
Okay.
What has Parliament done? Parliament has come up with jokes for laws about Chapter 6. So you go around, you can speak about Chapter 6 glowingly until you get to the framework that actually is supposed to see it being effected. So as a country, we are not bold enough to effect Chapter 6. And if as a country we don't like what we have, then we have got the sovereign right to actually do away with it.
Thank you. Let's now turn our attention to the other topical issue, and this is a proposal by the Attorney General, Justin Muturi, who wants the members of Parliament to tinker, that is in caveats, with the law to increase the number of members by 2. That's according to him, 1 at the National Assembly for the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and the other for Martha Karua, the Kenya party leader, and Odinga's running mate in the presidential race 2022, who will be, according to his proposal, sitting at the Senate without going to a referendum, is what he wants. He says we can tinker with Article 108 of the Constitution to have the person who comes second in the presidential polls become the minority leader in the National Assembly, which then means that Odinga will take the position of the current minority leader, Nugunja MP Opiyo Wandayi. However, according to the leader of the majority party and Kikuyu constituency member of Parliament, Kimani Ichung'wah, that hasn't reached his desk, or there has been no advisory on the same from the Attorney General, and that in his personal opinion, this will require a referendum. Senator, coming to you, this more or less appears to be a supplementary of the proposals the president had in the creation of the office of the official opposition leader in the National Assembly or across the bicameral parliament. What's your thinking of this move by the Attorney General? What do you read in it?
First of all, being from the party of Raila Odinga and the coalition that had the majority votes in this country, we still have pending issues. And when we refuse the office of the leader of opposition, it is because we still have pending issues with the previous election. I think until whatever our issues are sorted, we cannot move forward with anything suggested by anybody. Mm-hmm. Yes. Including,
I mean, more or less challenging the outcome of the presidential poll. But you have the Wiper Party boss, Kalonzo Musyoka, who early this year also welcomed the move by the president, saying it will help the opposition to provide oversight over the government.
But you see, Kalonzo Musyoka is currently a co-principal, but not the principal. Mm-hmm. Yes. So we only follow, as at now, what the principal says. Okay, and
what do you think will be the resolutions going forward? Because this is a matter that has been settled by the top court in the country, the apex court. What do you think, in your view, will be the recourse for you, despite having concerns for the outcome of the presidential poll?
The recourse for me as a senator, or the recourse for me as a
coalition political party.
The coalition political party. For us, we are waiting guidance from our leader, and I think, like I insist, the majority who voted in this country voted for Raila Odinga, and a lot of people are depending on what he says, and we are strictly waiting for his guidance.
Okay. Alex, is this a move in your reading meant to enhance our democracy? We have seen instances where government working with the opposition. But one thing that has been the constant denominator in all the actions made by the president, including the latest on Monday when he attended the burial of the late sister to the trade CS Moses Kuria, Pauline Nyokafi Kuria, in Kiambu County, saying that rule out handshake. There will be no detente, there will be no rapprochement between the opposition, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and him. I mean, whilst ruling out that, is this proposal meant to embolden our governance structure and better our governance model?
Absolutely. I mean, give me fees over the handshake any day, every day of the week. You remember when you had our last show, Ayub, last year, it was during the height of the proposed amendment to the Constitution to create the position of the leader of official opposition. Mm-hmm. And you remember I posted then, and I still do now, that position, the position of the leader of opposition, is it's a key tenet of a country with a proper governance structure. Because ideally, when you have the official opposition, you have, in essence, a government in waiting. You have a government that is able to check the ruling coalition or the ruling government. In essence, you have a very vibrant oversight. And remember, we've been talking about oversight. We've been talking about who is it that oversees the county government, who oversees the national government, who oversees the executive, who checks on the excesses of the executive, who checks on the executive at a time when a lot of Kenyans feel that the executive has become uncomfortably close with the judiciary. So when you have a vibrant opposition, they play that role. When you have a handshake, you pacify the opposition and sort of invite them into the government. Okay. So for me, I would support these every day. But, I'm also reading these and asking myself, why now? Now, if you remember, towards the close of last year, there was almost a universal acceptance that would have the LOP position, leader of official position. And then at some point, we had the president's visit to Nyanza, where you could see it was well choreographed, that the leader, Lamayan's party leader, had, lined up his troops. The president was given a rousing welcome, and it almost felt like this really was the icing on the cake of that rapprochement, Okay. And then, of course, comes the bombshell. you know, the president speaks first about Chebukati and what may have happened to him. Then the following day, there is the whistleblower. And then, of course, you know, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga calls a massively attended rally, you know, in Kamukunji, and then calls another one on Sunday, this coming Sunday. Then all of a sudden, the Attorney General is now talking about the creation of the leader of official opposition. As a student of politics, it tells me there's a lot simmering and beneath the surface. Okay, but then when you point out, okay, just hang on. When you point out that, that chain, you see there are many instances that you have cobbled together. Right.
What is the predictive outcome in your view?
I don't have a crystal ball. I really don't. The only crystal ball I may have, as a sports fan, is that Arsenal will win the Premier League this season.
That conversation cannot happen.
I know, I know. But on a serious note, though, this is the government trying to contain or pacify Raila Odinga and his coalition. These small conversations by the AG, they are not accidental.
Okay.
This tells me that something happened between December and last week,
all right,
that perhaps cooled down the talks of that position of an official opposition leader, that then needed a crisis to bring it back to the table. But I could be wrong.
Okay, thank you. I'll come to you, Maliban, Senator Jastangon. Let me get the account of the honorable member of the South African Legislative Assembly. What's your reading into this, and where is the place of referendum here? Because the leader of the majority party, Kimani Ichung'wah, says there has been no advisory from the State Law Office or the Attorney General's office, but certainly this will require a referendum.
Before I get to answer that question, let me say that this is not a new thing. This is not a new discussion. I remember when the President, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, was invited to give a keynote speech in Chatham House back in 2019. He alluded to this discussion. He actually said that it should be something that should be known, that we should have a shadow cabinet, or we should have an official office
of the opposition leader.
And I think this is something he was trying to give it as a proposal as to how he is going to lead his government. He gave that proposal as something that should have been accounted with to BBI's proposal, but it is the thinking that this is the way governance in 21st century model should be like. And I think he is just implementing, or this proposal by, as we have heard about it in the recent past. I heard that he even sent a memorandum for consideration to the Parliament.
National Assembly.
He is just implementing what he thought is best suited for our country back in 2019. So,
and what he thought was captured in the proposals by the Building Bridges Initiative.
No, what he thought was not captured in the BBI, but it is actually something that he wants to implement when he's the president. And I think it is...
Wasn't the creation of the official opposition leader's office contained in the building?
But not as how he envisages it in the current situation.
What is the difference between what? Okay, just hang on. What is?
But let us not discuss BBI because BBI is.
Okay, just hang on. For purposes of clarity, before I come to Maliba, what's the difference between what was proposed in the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020 and the proposal by the President to the speakers of the bicameral Parliament?
The point is that he is talking of the proposal is that we are going to have the runners-up or the number 2 in the election going to Parliament as the minority leader, and the running mate going to the Senate. There is a whole difference in terms of running.
No, that is a proposal by the AG. I'm talking about the proposal by the President.
Who is the AG to the President?
He's the State Council Office, but the President had his own proposal.
So, by and large, there is consultation at that level. But let me say this.
Okay.
We should not read malice in whatever is being discussed here, or what has been proposed by the President and what has been proposed by the AG. The point is that they have the best interest, and they don't want to have a government that is either their highway or either the way or their way or the highway. They want to have a government that has the checks and balances, where the minority party is empowered by having an office that is budgeted in the national budget, and is fully empowered and is recognized by the government and the people of Kenya.
Okay.
So I think the President is actually being magnanimous and wise enough by bringing this office of the official of opposition. And
Okay,
I think let me say this.
Okay.
The minority side should not run amok like we are seeing them holding demonstration. I think Kenya needs to be the bastion of democracy in our region. The tactics of demonstration as a way of expressing yourself are outdated. The modern way of expressing yourself as a democracy is when you are competing on the pedestal of intellectual discourse and transformational discourses.
Okay.
But when you lead demonstrations,
thank you.
I think that is a 20th century way of expressing yourself.
Okay, yes, Arnold, go ahead, please.
I'd like to start actually on a very light note. My coalition leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, yesterday was at the immigration office to renew his particular his passport. That's just a day after he told his supporters, including myself, that we should actually boycott. We do not recognize the government of William Ruto, and that there should be boycotting some few products. I'm just thinking from where I'm sitting, at this particular time, he's the people's president. I'm just wondering why we don't have the people's passport and why we did not have the people's immigration office where he could go and renew this particular passport. That having been said, I think, is it really necessary for us to have the office of the leader of official opposition now? Is it a necessity? Is it something that is urgent in a country where we are proposing to increase electricity cost by 117%? A country that is actually receiving aid from other people. Yesterday, the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, was receiving $1 million USD from the Church of the Latter Saints donation towards food. A country that is unable to feed its own people. A country that is stealing children's fees is actually thinking that of all they can do, the priority at this particular point, and what the AG can do is actually to come up with the office of the leader of official opposition. Is that what really the Kenyans seated out there? Kenyans have actually gone out in public participation and told people, behold our leaders, behold Karobia, behold Lemaletian. What we need is the leader of official opposition. Is that what we really need now? And you see, there are a few things that I think our leaders keep on getting wrong. If we are going to come up with this office, it's a good thinking, of course. It's part and parcel of what we need. Okay. But are we really being sensitive to the people and to the situation? Down here, we've not dealt with cattle rustling, for example. We now have taken it, it's now so normal that last week, I think it was over the weekend, there was another incident. But now it's not even making news. Okay. The things that we are prioritizing, the things that the national altar of decision-making, that is parliament, that is the cabinet and everything, whatever they are doing, does not speak to the situation now. January officially began on Monday, on 23rd, when children started going back to school. Because what we had between 1st and 23rd was upper December. So now people are going to feel the proper pinch. Is anyone dealing with that? No one is dealing with that. Here we are talking about these particular issues, and we want to make it look like it is something of the now. I think a lot of times we miss out, and our leaders sometimes act like they're not very sensitive. Okay. So, are we speaking to the leaders? I saw MPs for the first time waking up and demanding CDF in all its unconstitutionalness, if that is a word. Until schools opened up, there had not been a lot of pressure. Did they have to go to Mombasa, for example, to stage walkouts? I want to see MPs on Parliament Road, actually, walking to the AG's office, walking to Treasury. What are they doing? Very vibrant people. Did they have to wait until parents start pushing them with SMSs and calls before they react? We cannot be so reactionary, especially when we are given power by the people to make decisions that matter to them. We can't feed ourselves. We are coming around with this. Now we are talking about BBI 2.0.
Pro Max.
Because, as in now BBI Pro Max. Because as much as Mheshimiwa Karobia argues that what the president now is doing is not so much BBI. Okay. It is so much BBI because the truth is that even the president knew then that there were issues in BBI that were necessary to be dealt with. Okay. It's just but that the political environment then was not so good for him to actually support it. He actually supported it halfway. In BBI, by the president was a watermelon, in that he would support and then oppose. He was doing what we call oppo-support, as in he opposes and then he supports. Thank you. So there's nothing new that is actually going to come up. But I feel we are not doing justice to priorities that are required by the
timing and priorities. Yes, Senator.
First of all, I want to fully agree with my brother here, Alex. But as for Maliba, I don't know why he started off very wrongly and then started getting a very, very smooth flow of coherence. I don't know, I never understand him. But you've witnessed a lot of double standards with the current, with the Kenya Kwanza administration. And I want to call them that because we have already been given a stop by my leader. And you see, and politics is very, very interesting because, and you will never understand politics. I don't know. It's like the way they say mudslinging has rules, war has rules, but politics has rules. So I think that's why there is always anything is expected at any moment in politics. When you see, the current administration is proposing the creation of the office of the leader of opposition. But when Baba coughs just a little and tries to oppose something, they are again scared. And they're again saying, why do you have to do this? I think that was just like a glimpse of what he will be doing if he had the office of the opposition, the leader of opposition. Now, will they withstand that? Will they survive that with the current fear that has been sent down their spine? And you look at what happened in the last election, again, like he said, handshake is also very risky. Because you see what Baba did with Uhuru Kenyatta. They went into a handshake, but what did that do? It costed our side of the coalition because we were now like being blamed, but that you are not doing the oversight, you are not putting the government on toes. But look at the reason and the purpose Baba went into the handshake. Mm-hmm. It was to ensure that the country did not go into bloodshed and to avoid another post-election violence. And then again, I think at the end of the day, we need to think of what is our priority as leaders generally before we are politicians. The interest should be the people at all times. Okay. And I feel like, I know that right now Raila Odinga is fighting for the future of this country. If not now, by following and saying that we must go back to the past election, we must look at the election irregularities. It is because he wants those irregularities put to a stop, so that in future, as the current leadership, we do not leave the country with the same problems to our grandchildren as we are facing right now. If the electoral injustices are addressed once and for all in this country, even if Baba says no handshake, no office of the opposition, we are going to face the problems and take the bull by the horns. I feel like as a young person in this country, that is exactly what we need to ensure that the electoral process is clear and just moving forward. Okay,
so before you go to Alex, the irregularities that we've talked about, the top court never agreed with your petitions. Mm-hmm. And you're citing irregularities. Yes. I mean, how do you quantify that?
Because the justice is a process. It's not something that you do once and that is it. It is something you... It's a continuous process. Okay. So today you can be... We have seen a lot of people being told you did not do this, and then the court comes later and say, oh, this so-and-so actually did this, and we take that back. And that's why there are different levels of court, including the East African court. Okay. So I think Maina Kwarubia should actually prepare. By the way,
in terms of our jurisdiction and the hierarchy of our justice system, the Supreme Court is the tip of the court system in the country, and it rendered its ruling on the 5th of September and upholding the election of William Ruto as president as announced by the IEB. So
I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer.
Let me see. And I'll come to Alex Arnold briefly, 30 seconds.
Just a chip in. I'd just like to remind Mheshimiwa Lemalitian that the East African Court of Justice is not an appeal mechanism to national frameworks. So we can go up to The Hague, but that doesn't change what already happened. I think it's also just important to speak to this, that we've even seen a whistleblower. I come from the school of thought that there's no whistleblower. Mm-hmm. That is just a false flag operation to manage Kalonzo and those other people, and to rebrand Baba so that he comes back. Baba is a cut of 9 lives, and this whistleblower thing, if you look at it, it neither has got depth or substance, but all of us know, being politicians, you will know that that has actually just been created specifically to rebrand Baba. And by the time people realize, he will actually be on the steps of Arambe House with another handshake again.
Ayub, you cannot rebrand an institution. Maliba has been very consistent with talking of rebranding Baba. You cannot rebrand Baba. I mean, Baba is a continental and global leader. You should look for small people to rebrand, not Baba. You're talking about Raila Odinga, the enigma. And again, you see, this is why I'm telling you I don't understand Maliba.
Maliba is oppo-supporting, yeah?
Oppo-supporting, exactly.
Guilty of what?
He's holding water and fire.
Okay, yes, Alex, go ahead, please.
Probably when it comes to Baba.
Let me get there.
Yes,
right. Go ahead.
I don't think I would say this all the time with Arnold, but I think I agree with him somehow. Yeah. I looked at the content of what was supposedly an account by the whistleblower, and it lacked depth, in my opinion. It lacked conviction. I might be wrong, but it did, So again, like I said, there is no coincidence in politics. So all these events that have, the chronic of events that have enumerated have all led, they are all intertwined, they are all conjoined, they are all interconnected. So we should be watching the political space over the coming few weeks, perhaps months. But having said that, I also want to disagree with Mheshimiwa here, Karobia. When you say that there are fundamental differences between, essentially, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020 and Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2022 that was mooted at Windsor, they are Siamese twins. The only difference is that the latter does not have the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. And, we come from the same region, and I know, Maina, you hold the interests of Mount Kenya at heart. I'm very surprised that you don't know that difference, because that should be the first thing you should table if that were to come back. If there are any amendments devoid of the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling, you should not support it, because it disadvantages your region.
Okay.
But yes, Alex, having said that, in terms of making the submission, just making my last point on the idea of the political temperatures, what the Right Honorable Prime Minister, former PM, was up to, what the president is doing, vis-a-vis, is it good for a country, and also agreeing with Arnold that we have larger priorities at the moment. We have bigger priorities, in fact, and most of our priorities are hinged, on two major issues: the economy and the rising cost of living, basically the inflationary pressures. Okay. Rising cost of energy, electricity and all that. So with all those things happening, I don't think political, constitutional amendments, political processes should take center stage. They should be peripheral. Right now, the government should be exerting all its energy on lowering the cost of basic commodities and mending the economy. Okay, and the cost of living crisis is what the president talked about wholeheartedly, saying we need to address agriculture, which will have a wholesale effect in terms of the cost of living crisis. And he, looking at his speech or listening to him in Dakar, Senegal, he was very passionate about agriculture, value addition, and also the trade CS, Moses Kuria, who on Monday talked about the place of manufacturing, saying we are no longer a production company, therefore we need to reorient the country's economy to be an export production economy. Yes, Maina, go ahead, please. Yes,
I think I need to put things into perspective. This government is really not discussing politics. We are so much committed to delivering the plan. We have seen the engagement of His Excellency the President and His Excellency the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, discussing on matters of delivering the plan. What we were discussing in the morning in regards to the allocation of revenue to the counties is in line with what we promised. And I want to say that if you look at the priorities of this government, it's about creating jobs, expanding the opportunities for our people, with the keen prioritization on areas of agriculture, the affordable housing, and the universal healthcare. So we have an agenda, we have the plan, and that is what the president and the deputy president, all their engagements on daily basis in fulfilling the promises that they promised in 2022. They have, and this engagement and associations and the meetings come with the understanding that in 2027, they will not really be talking about promises. The president and the deputy president will be given the scorecard or the performance index of how they have done. And that's why you saw, I know the media, you are given the access to this information in regards to the discussions of how the government was organized and aligned when there was that interministerial and cabinet meeting at Mount Kenya, in regards to how various state departments and the ministries should align themselves with the plan that the president and the deputy president campaigned on last year. So I must say that this government is fully committed to creating jobs and expanding and lowering the cost of living for our people. And that's why you heard the president talk on Monday. And he talked about we have lowered or they have reduced the price of unga from 230 to, I think, 180. And he has actually promised that if we continue the way we are continuing handling our economy, we are going to reduce the prices even to lower level. And that is the basic food commodity in our homes. So I am optimistic that in 2 years' time, we are going to have a country that we are going to be proud of, and a regionally competitive nation and a globally competitive economy and products.
Thank you. And before I take your final accounts, let's sample the feedback from our viewers, because we have also been doing this with our viewers here on the broadcast, the hashtag on Twitter, Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Engineer Lazaro says increasing county revenue allocations are some of the unnecessary campaign pledges that will keep on haunting the Ruto regime. It's good to be honest during the campaign. Governors still can't be trusted with additional cash before auditing. Hashtag Daybreak. Thank you. Rev Harry _Koskei says proper and detailed investigation by the independent body must be done thoroughly to all the counties. God bless. This is on the report by the Controller of Budget and the Auditor General. The _K-Marsh says, I differ with the Senator. We have noted a deliberate move of weakening devolution by the national government. Monies allocated to the counties over the years are minute under they have been little effort to even meet the minimum 15% as dictated by law. Paul Orodi says, is the Constituency Development Fund that has made our parliament and politics a dirty arena? MPs need not be mixed with money unless they are approving the national or the county budgets. Oversight or development funds should be channeled to the ground differently. Godi Barasawere says the standoff between the Treasury and parliamentarians should be resolved as quickly as possible. The developments that are dependent on the National Government Constituency Development Fund and the National Government Affirmative Action Fund risk facing a poor start in terms of initiation and the general implementation. Esawe says it's crucial that the county governments, receive proper funding in order to improve service delivery to the citizens. We must hold our county leaders accountable and push for transparent, responsible allocation of funds to ensure that all residents have access to quality. A vast array of the feedback from our viewers who have been following the different topics that we had at hand. And Arnold, I begin with you, then the Senator, Alex, and then we'll finish up with Honorable Maina. Go ahead, please.
I'd like to close on these lines. Number one, we also need to move to a level where we ask politicians of the claims they make, especially on deliverables. Like, for example, has anyone actually gone out and interrogated the claim by the Kenya Kwanza administration that they lowered the price of unga? Or is it incidental to market dynamics? Would it have been different if somebody else was here? What are the deliberate decisions that this administration has done to bring unga down? If you looked at that, then you'll realize that a lot of the price coming down, because we've just gone into a harvest 2-3 months ago, a lot of the price shifts are actually what I said, incidental to market dynamics, and not necessarily any deliberate action by this particular administration. But they've made that claim and no one has interrogated. We need to be actually asking out that. On CDF, it's important for me to repeat that CDF is unconstitutional. CDF has killed parliament, and anything that looks like CDF or walks like CDF should not be allowed. we do not need to allow CDF to go back, because the reason why we have got a problem with oversight, money getting lost and everything else, is that we have got a lot of CDF managers in parliament masquerading as legislators. Very few people in parliament are legislators. They are there and their business is simply CDF. If it's not CDF, there's nothing else. And finally, we might not agree with what Raila says sometimes, but Raila, in his age, is doing things the people of my age should be doing. So even as we criticize him, Raila is standing in a void we have refused to step up into it. Issues around oversight, issues about taking care of the future of this particular country, we have refused. Specifically, I'm speaking to millennials here. Okay. Millennials are no longer the young people of this country, but the people of this country, because they are the majority taxpayers, they are the majority adults now. And lest they think they are young, we have got Generation Zers who are now becoming adults, almost our numbers, but they're still in school. If we do not wake up now, they will show us what Kikuyus call the bird of Ngede.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Senator.
As for me, I would like to remind the young people of this country, the youth, the 75% of the population of this country, that the future of our country lies in our hands, and we must interrogate each politician individually and actually see who really has the interests of the people and the country at heart, and who is focused on people's being a people's servant. And we must also distinguish gold from gold-plated people, because there are people who are just doing PR with the people's lives. But we know right now in so many counties, there are so many people collapsing and dying of hunger. Why are we doing that with a country that has so much from collection from revenue, with a country that is borrowing, continuing to borrow a lot of loans? And why are the county governments demanding more money from a country that is also complaining of, a problem with a depressed economy? I think we must all interrogate who is really people-centered and whose mind is actually, and heart is actually putting the people first, because the people must always come first. But we know there are slogans that say that, but it's not acting that.
Thank you. Yes, Alex.
So two things as went up, Ayub. First thing, the Nation headlines today has really broken my heart. Stolen features. For me, as a country, we need to come to an agreement that anything that touches on the children of this country is sacrosanct. In fact, I'm giving my colleagues here an opportunity. You could even go and propose a sacrosanct act where if you're being accused of murdering a child, of stealing from a child, of stealing a child's future, then you're not treated like any other criminal. Because we have to, we have to get to a stage where we say as a country, our children are a no-go zone. We are not saying you can steal from the others, but when you steal from children, then you're treated in a way that would treat someone, for example, who has raped a minor. Because the offense of stealing from a child, it spans generations, and the ripple effect is felt for years to come.
Asante.
Second one is on the issue of the CDF. And the issue of accountability. It speaks to a culture problem in this country. And I think I've always spoken about this, that we have a problem with our culture, what Moyashia is calling morality. Our culture as a country, what would you say is our culture? What are the things that define us? What is our ethical underpinning? We need to address those things that say, for example, stealing is something that is abominable. It's something that we frown upon as a country. In fact, in this country, we praise people who steal. We look up to them because they are wealthy. And those guys are mentoring our children.
Thank you.
So we need to nip that in the bud. We must have a conversation where we agree on a country. These are our cultural values, and we go through with them.
Asante. Yes, Honorable Maina Karobia.
Thank you, Ayub, for hosting me, and I also want to thank Kenyans for watching us. I want to say that there is a conversation that was set in place yesterday by the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, in regards to illicit blues and closing of bars. I want to say that I fully support his directive and urge the governors to please comply with this directive so that we save a generation. whatever my brother is saying here about storage generation. This storage generation, after the squandering of these resources, they end up going to these bars and abusing these drugs and alcoholism. They indulge in alcoholism. So I want to urge the governors to please save the generation by at least complying with this directive that was given by His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, and urge fellow young people across the country that please take charge of your lives. Don't indulge in drugs. Don't indulge in things that would be a threat to opportunities and be a threat also to your life. Please participate in nation building, participate in progressive activities that are going to help you as a person, help your family, and also help our nation, so that we can have a vibrant society, we can have sober people, and we can have a sober population. Asante
sana. Honorable Maina Karobia is the Member of Parliament, a Member of Parliament, the East African Legislative Assembly. Thanks for your time and company. Alex Njiro, your time is all appreciated. Public policy commentator. So is Maliba Arnold, who is also a public policy commentator, and nominated Senator Hezena Lematian. Alex, you earlier on said that you have no predictive capacity or skills to look into what your pattern of political line of thought is likely going to yield. But you did prophesize that the men from North London Arsenal will win the English Premier League. No doubt about that. Well, contrasts definitely, but we have God's power miracle is behind our comprehension. As much as I am a staunch and ardent Arsenal fan, we leave it at that. Okay, hang on. Yes, Arnold, no, we have to finish. Thank you. Thanks.
No, it's just, you know, do you remember the red carpet at KICC during the elections? That is what you and Alex are doing.
Okay. Yes, Alex. Okay, Maina.
Even as much as we talk about the Arsenals and Manchesters of this world,
yes,
please let us talk about the Gor Mahia,
yes,
the AFC,
yeah,
the Madara United, the Thika United of this nation.
Obliged.
There is a whole revenue. Sports industry is actually an industry that we can utilize to raise revenue for our nation.
Asante.
And on that note, just because now to be fair, gender balance.
Okay.
As I'm not a fan of sports, but I'm a sports sponsor.
Yeah.
So mini sponsor. But I also implore the county governments,
yes,
especially the departments on sports, please support those local footballers. Being the founder of Pastoralist Sports and coming up with a national pastoralist football team.
Thank you.
I beg the county government, especially sports department, to support those.
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. And on that, Karobia, there is a plan by the president, and he exclusively spoke to this, that Kenya must qualify for the World Cup in 2030. We'll know about the hosts, but for 2026, we still have a qualification period to go through. Okay.
The local football.
Asante.
Activities.
Asante.
Yeah.
So vibrant is the young panel this morning. Thanks for your time and company, and thank you to you too for waking up with us here on the broadcast. Your time is all appreciated. Many thanks for your feedback here on Daybreak at Citizen TV Kenya. Up next is Level Up Friday, and Winnie says there's a DJ who will be keeping you entertained, and DJ Gigi. Okay. Thanks for your time. Gospel Edition DJ, who will be coming up shortly here after the broadcast. Many thanks for your company. We appreciate that, and thanks for watching. Good morning.